a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hello, everyone. I'm so pleased to welcome back to the show. He is a stand-up comedian. He also does host comedy nights, and it's his birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, Cive Lucas, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
So, I've seen some of your posts. There's a lot of good things happening with the comedy scene, right?
We're trying, yeah. It's evolving, not just my shows now. There's a couple of shows, like one just started back up, unfortunately, with some work being done on the waterfront. One of the bars couldn't last that a long-standing show had been at, so it was down for a few months, but he came back. It's called No Jokes Barred, and it's one where people can tell the jokes and you come ready to hear anything. It's a fun night and it's great. He's got a couple of spots now that really want to host it. I have a couple of spots. A young lady that's been doing comedy for about a year, she's starting a show. I just did a first time at a new show in Moncton. So it's really nice to see. And hopefully we're going to get some stuff set up in the northern part of the province as well.
Very good. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Moncton, because I just want to remind everybody that you're in New Brunswick, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and it seems to be really happening, and so I'm very pleased to hear about it. And one question I want to ask: do you have open mic nights as well?
Yeah, most. I have one now that'll be weekly, and it's one that's trivia and open mic after. It's just a very loose show afterwards, just to kind of let people unwind after trivia, and it's pretty rough right now because we've only done 2 shows, but that. The comedians can sign up, but comedians can show up after. We had a gentleman come to that one after the trivia because he needed to film his set for the local festival's amateur contest. So it's just a nice little spot each week for comedians they don't have to do the trivia. They can just show up after and do a few minutes if they're working on something, or if they want to practice hosting. I don't mind. It's the more the merrier.
Yeah.
It's just a fun night, and the trivia gets our brains going. And then the laughs it's a interesting exercise to change your brain from trying to be smart to being a smart ass.
Without mentioning any names, do you happen to have a favorite comedian that you've heard so far that attends your nights?
Oh, hands down, and I'll say it, she's actually closing the show tonight in Punchlines, Michelle Lynn Petit. She's been doing it for longer than I have. She's been at it for, I think, about 5 years, but she has everything you could want in a comedian. She can appeal to any age group. She's the kind of person. There's musicians too that you hear that the first time you hear them, you want to hear them over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And she is hilarious. But the best part about her is that she takes comedians under her wing and really helps. And she's in her 50s, so she's a straight shooter. She's seen a lot, so she tells you that's great, or here this would work, or just shut up, that's no good. but she's very supportive. But there's other ones like
yeah, I think
the lady I was talking about, Stephanie Jack. She's hosting a show. She's been at it about a year, and she is so funny because when you see her, you don't expect the jokes she's going to make, and she does great jokes about parenting and stuff that are not of the norm. So it's my favorite kind of stuff. But she's a deceptive package because she's a cute, bookish looking young lady, and then she comes out with the kind of foul mouth that just you love because she does it in a way that people aren't shocked.
Right.
Besides how she looks, it's not the words, it's the person that it's coming out of. And I like stuff like that. But those two for sure. But there's so many, and I've said it on here before, that I really truly believe that you could take a lineup of New Brunswick comedians and put them head to head with anybody in the province, and I do believe we might not win, but we'd surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'm glad you mentioned how Michelle is so generous. I think it's important for anybody who's doing well and has been around for a while to help everybody, or just to be open to everybody else, right?
That's a big part. You can't have, especially in a small area like New Brunswick, you can't have cliques. You have to be as open to each other as you can, and that's never going to be 100% possible in this day and age. There's comedians who don't like a certain kind of comedy and won't go near it, and that's their prerogative. But for the most part, I'd say 97%, 98% of the comedians, even in New Brunswick, that I've met, just want to make people laugh. And we know we're not professionals. We're open mic comedians for the most part. But we just want to make people laugh, and we want people to forget their troubles at the door.
Mhm.
And the problem you run into now is people want to use that platform at an open mic of all places to speechify. They will make a joke, and then afterwards they will, and that's fine if people want to do that, but there's a place for that. You want to set up a, hilarity for Hamas show and talk about that. That is your choice. That's where that goes. But like, we had somebody do that at a charity show, and I didn't enjoy that, but you don't stop it, because then it just makes more of a show of it. The more attention you give to it, the more impact it has. But
Yeah.
some people say it's open mics, and we shouldn't be that controlling, but it's not in the name of humor. So that's a comedy show. People are trying to forget that craziness at the door.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make them laugh, not speechify.
And it's not censoring. If you're saying it's open night comedy night, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and I don't censor their comedy, but I don't want the outside stuff people are trying to escape getting in. And I love political humor. Like, I'll date myself with references like when you had Dennis Miller and people like that who very acerbic with the news, or when Norm Macdonald would do Weekend Update and stuff like that. I love those kind of comedians that would take current events and stuff, but they made it funny.
Yeah.
But when you go up and just go and literally say the words, well, now that I'm done being funny, I want to talk about, and you're like, ugh, just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But fortunately, it only happens here and there, and if you don't make a big deal out of it, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. And it's up to the audience to respond, I think, in a way too, right?
Yeah, and sometimes, and that's the other thing, is if the person can't read the audience, that's the trouble. Is sometimes people can't read an audience, and everybody's done it. Any performer's done it, where they might not think they're doing well, but they won't realize how badly they're doing, and you go on and on. Then you're like, oh, I probably should have cut that off sooner. But usually when they do that, they get their point across. They get off the stage and go to the next person, and hopefully the next person or the host can pick the show back up. And that's where it's really troublesome, because it throws an energy right off of the show. These are serious topics, and they deserve to be talked about, just not at a comedy show.
Right. Yeah. Now this is going to be aired. I just got to find my phone, because I want to know if you have anything you want to promote before it airs, or for when it airs. So just give me a second here. So
Sure.
Should be airing around the 26th of this month. That's a Friday.
Oh, excellent. That's yes, there's every Thursday night there's the trivia and comedy at Wasted Day Brewing. But I'm doing my first ticketed show that I'm putting together called Comedy at Crave. It's a Crave nightclub. And what we're doing is it's $5 in advance, $10 at the door, but portion of each ticket is going to go to the local hospice. It's called Bobby's Hospice.
Mm-hmm.
And they do amazing things in this town it's what they do is takes a special human being, and they don't get nearly enough funding, but they're a big charity in town that people want to help and they want to go. So, but there's not a lot of comedy for it, because it seems like something people don't want to joke around, I guess, perhaps, I don't know, but they were really happy to hear that I was interested in that. So we may actually expand to do a monthly show that'll be a ticketed show that would be half for the comedians and half for Bobby's, but that's down the road. But this would be one where it's a portion of each ticket, and then we'll see how that goes and keep going forward.
You've done fundraisers, comedy night fundraisers before, haven't you?
Yes, we did one. We did 3 shows in November to raise. We raised $850 for Eric Payne, his son, and his son's actually now out of the hospital. He has to have still, I believe, round the clock care and things at the house, and he's out of the hospital and very slowly coming back around. So it'll never be the same, but he's made it, and it's making huge strides. So
yeah, for sure. I think fundraisers are like that type of fundraiser are a good thing for people, right? Like people who want to attend, they can go.
And it helps.
Yeah.
makes money for it's capitalistic, but it makes money for the comedians, but it also makes money. And if you do it well, you make a lot of money for a charity. You can do other things. You could probably get local sponsors. I'm not good at that part. I still learning everything as I go. But what I look at this way is the comedians are going to put money in their pockets and doing something good, and the charity's going to get more money than they had. And that's also going to, if we can keep it going, it'll be a nice regular amount for them each month.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to expand it when comedians come through town. We can always try and arrange a date to maybe move a date and have a show where we do it with special guest star, whomever's in town. And maybe it might be a little bit more expensive to cover their costs, but we'd still be helping the charity and get some exposure to St. John with some out of town comedians, showing what we can do with what great charity we have and stuff.
Right. Yeah. No, I know that you have a number of places, I believe, that where you perform or where you have your events.
Yeah. There's one main one. There's a couple that we're doing. I have 3 that are at 2 or 3 at Wasted Day Brewing. They're really big with our comedians. Like they're really open to us putting on shows and things. Grove Lounge has been a really big success. That's a pub across from the movie theater. It used to be a steakhouse and now it's turned into a nice bar. And we get really nice attendance. We actually had people, we didn't do a show in December because of Christmas parties and things.
Right.
But people actually asked when they'd see us, they'd say, "Oh, when's the next show?" And that was really cool. And then this Crave, we're hoping to do a monthly there, whether it stays ticketed or not, but it's another venue. And there's another bar that Stephanie's doing a show at. And then Water Street has it's a dinner theater, but they've started putting on this No Jokes bar. They've done that once, and they may do it another month for us.
Okay.
So there's quite a few spots, and it's opening up another one. Five and Dime's been doing it for about 5 years with a couple of people too. So
right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, and Moncton has several, and there's a couple more going there, and Fredericton has some, and like it's growing nicely.
Very good. Yeah. I'm just thinking about some new comedians, that you've seen. Do they ever ask for tips afterwards or beforehand?
Yeah. Sometimes, usually after, a lot of them want you to be kind of honest, like bluntly honest. I try and find the good, but then tell them how to work. And if they ask, I'll give them suggestions. If there's something very glaring, I might say something, but I try but if they ask, I'm very open with them. That's what I'm there for. If people are hosting new shows, I send them a message and say, you don't have to ask me anything, but if you have any questions, and because we're not competing against each other, we're trying to help each other. And I'm trying to do what Michelle did for me and other comedians, where I'm going to help you, because there's comedians that if they do your first couple of sets, you might have one funny joke. Well, you can't just go, well, they suck. You have to give them a chance, but then you set things like, you don't need to do 10 minutes. How about you do 3 minutes? I'll give you 3 minutes, work on 3 minutes. Then you can, and that's my biggest advice to young comedians was, you don't have to write something new all the time. Every time you find the stuff that people are laughing at and you work around that. And that way you're going to be building on laughs, but it'll also help you with bridging different ways to write jokes. And everybody has their own style, but I was trying to write stuff that was always new. And it was just, when it didn't work, it got frustrating. And then I realized, wait a minute, I can kind of toy with stuff instead of trying this new all the time. So it's basically passing on something I wish I had thought of when I was starting.
Yeah.
But I try not to ram advice down their throat, because I'm an open mic guy for 3 years. I don't have much worldly advice.
One of the things, like, I've done both, right? I've done stand-up, I've been in the audience, and I've been so disappointed sometimes and been really pleased the other times. Like, when I was disappointed is because the comedian is not playing to the audience. They're playing to maybe their friends, and their friends are having a riot, but you look at the rest of the room.
and that's when you start finding, they will quickly either thrive outside of that, or they will very quickly fall apart because their friends will stop going. Eventually, it's sort of like prison. They're only going to go a few times to see you, and then they're going to stop. But when there's a couple of comedians who bring a lot of people, but what makes them really good is if you took them, I've seen them come out of areas and do shows without their friends there or whatever, and they've still gotten a lot of laughs, not as many, but they start seeing what's working and what's not. Because it's a big thing, is making your friends laugh is easier than making strangers laugh. And when people see jokes work on, like, people think everybody's now Matt Rife or whoever doing crowd work, and they're terrible at it. But if you give them enough time, they're going to get better at it, because they're going to figure out hopefully what's working. And if they don't, usually they're fairly self-aware. Most people are self-aware enough to try something different, whether it's something different in comedy or some other outlet. But usually people are mainly self-aware and drop off if they're not working with audiences. But some comedians thrive on working against the audience.
Yeah.
Not many of them do it successfully, but I've seen it where it's almost like performance art for them, and it can be really, really aggravating, because can be really hard on the next comedian trying to.
Oh yeah.
And most hosts will try and rebound it, but even then it's hard if somebody kind of drags everything down and they're almost doing it like antagonizing the audience. Like, going in, if you're playing to a small audience, I find the worst thing a comedian do is go, all right, well, for you 4 people here, I'll still do some jokes, I guess, or something. Like, you still treat 4 people like they're the audience, whether it's 4 people or a full bar. You should still be giving them, because you don't know who those 4 people are. I did a show where somebody made a comment about the size of the place and said, wow, what a rocking place this is with 2 people. Well, it was the owner and the manager were the 2 people that were there. That show didn't last any longer but it was on me for putting somebody up who I knew might make a joke about that. And I don't like telling people what they can and can't say. I like to think that they're grown-ups about it, but sometimes stuff comes out, you don't mean it that way, or it's a joke, and you never know. Like, especially business owners are not real thrilled with people joking about the size of an audience. But I have those people, I've had them on other shows and everything goes fine. It's just sometimes stuff slips out. But yeah, it's just I always want people to be wary of, even if you're playing it, it's hard to play to 2 people, but still, just go for it. Say it's a small but mighty crowd, and sometimes they make more noise.
That's true too. Yeah. One thing I used to tell people is have somebody record you, videotape you, and then look and watch yourself afterwards,
Yeah, and I tell people either that or do the audio of it too if you want.
Yeah.
I am really bad for taking my own advice, because I hate the sound of my voice. Like, I can never, like, I'll post these and share them and go, oh, this is a great interview, but I won't watch it. I'll watch pieces of it, but I won't, because I'll be like, oh my God, I am such a horrible human being. I had to have somebody help me do it, my submission for a festival, because I was watching it going, I can hear people laughing, but I just don't know which part works and because then I worry about what might be admissible and what might be misconstrued. I get in my head. So I have a young fella, he's like 22 or 23, that he looked at it and he cut it all up and did a nice little clip for me. And I'm like, perfect. This is what I have you for.
Very good. I don't like listening to myself either. So when I do the rendering of this, I just try to focus on my guest.
Yeah.
It's just like the way we hear ourselves is kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And well, when I went to college in 98 at Robertson College in Winnipeg, and it was for radio, TV broadcasting. But I was there was myself and another woman there that didn't want to be on the air. We just wanted to do behind the scenes. I wanted to write commercials and stuff, and she wanted to produce. She actually went on to help produce that year part of the Canada People's History, parts that they filmed in and around Winnipeg. She went and helped be an associate producer on, or whatever you'd call it, to go help with all the different stuff. And so that was cool. But I did writing and stuff because I didn't like the sound of my own voice. But then I wound up making the commercials, so then I still have to hear my own voice, but I was being a smartass about it, so it was much better. But even when I'm doing but if I'm doing comedy, I listen to it so critically, because especially if it's a set where I'm hosting, I worry that I don't want to slow the crowd down for the comedians. And if I hear even a little bit, I'll be like, ugh, I'm too hard on myself. And it's my New Year's resolution to try and be more self-positive, I guess is a new word. I don't.
So, well, whatever works, right?
That's right.
Well, I think we're going to end it there because I don't want to run out of time. I don't want Zoom cutting us off because I hate when it does that because I don't pay attention to the time. But yeah, thanks again, Kai, for being here. And
Oh, no, thank you. And thank you for sharing all the different stuff that I have going. And I really appreciate it.
you're welcome. And to the audience, thank you for watching the show. You've been listening to Kai Lucas. And, if you're in the area, so go check it out because you never know. You just might have a good time. Take care, everybody, and peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.